Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, whichever realms of existence you are, whatever mind states you're in, whatever conditions you're in. As always, welcome to my channel. All are welcome. Immerse yourself in the ocean of the vow. Anyway, continuing my Mahayana New Year special, the last and final part of my reflective readings, coming from the book, the Religions book. Finally got the title right, the Religions book, by D.K. Random House Penguin. I'm doing a partial reading, fair use, just a partial reading, fair use for educational purposes, showing the copyright info there. The copyright is that's their owner. I'm not doing this for profit, and so it's part of my Dharma activities in celebration of the Mahayana New Year. So the next part is Act Out Your Beliefs, is the title. The performance of ritual and repetition. Okay. In most forms of Buddhism, positioned a bit better there. In most forms of Buddhism, the rituals are simple, perhaps just making an offering before a Buddha image, while Tibetan Buddhism is colorful and dramatic. During worship, monks may chant repeated phrases, mantras, wear striking headdresses, blow horns, and use elaborate hand gestures, mudras, often while holding small symbolic objects, vajras, and bells. Lay Buddhists may also chant, turn prayer wheels, and set out colorful prayer flags. At festivals, there may be dramatic performances and dancing with huge images on cloth spread out. Let me read that again. At festivals, there may be dramatic performances and dancing with huge images on cloth spread out or hung on temple walls, and the creation and destruction of intricate sand patterns known as mandalas. How is all of this, which seems so different from the early simplicity of the Buddhist path, explained and justified? Not that it needs to be justified, but anyway, I suppose a religion of truth can justify itself. For more than 1,000 years, Buddhism and Hinduism coexisted in India and influenced one another. When Padmasambhava, revered as the founder of Tibetan Buddhism, took the religion to Tibet in the 8th century, it was a form influenced both by the general Mahayana tradition, which had already spread to China, and by the devotional tradition, Bhakti of Hinduism, that had developed in India during the previous centuries. Just a quick word about Padmasambhava. But that great teacher, Dharma teacher, is traditionally considered a manifestation of Amitabha Buddha, just like Shakyamuni is taught to be a Nirmanakaya form of Amida Buddha. So anyway, continuing. Bhakti involved a more personal and emotional engagement with worship, which was taken a step further in both Hinduism and Buddhism with the development of Tantra. Tantra involves not just thinking about what will be achieved by spiritual practice, but also a process of acting out. For instance, rather than simply visualizing an image of a Buddha, the practitioner imagines himself or herself as that Buddha. This process of emotional engagement involves the whole person, not just the intellect, encouraging him or her to feel what it would be like to be enlightened. So I'll just say a little bit about this. When it's talking about personal engagement, personal, emotional engagement, whole person engagement is what I'm trying to do, with your whole heart, mind, whole being engagement is very present in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. We are meant to listen that way to the Dharma with our whole mind, heart, being, our whole, and other Dharma activities of Dharma dialogue, saying Amita's name. We're kind of, well, it does involve our whole engagement of our whole self, self, the provisional self, the engagement of our whole heart, mind, our whole being, emotionally and intellectually, and in whatever way, intuitively, whatever way you can engage with the Dharma, you're meant to. Now, you're not saying Nembutsu in a self-power way, nor are you deep listening or listening to the Dharma in a self-power way. It's Amida who's enabling us to listen to the Dharma deeply, that's enabling us to hear the Dharma, that's enabling us to engage with the Dharma. It's the vow power of Amida, who is naturally enabling us to do that. And the Nembutsu itself, saying Namo Amida Butsu, is itself the call of Amida. It's Amida calling to us. We're just saying it, as it were. But the Dharma activities of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism are meant to be done, with our whole heart, mind, being, our whole, the whole person is meant to be involved in that. Renyo Shonen, in fact, says that when we're, we should be listening with our whole heart, mind, our whole being to the Dharma, when we're reading the Dharma and listening to it, or and part of listening is Dharma dialogue as well. So that's where we should be engaging in that with our whole heart, mind. Again, all of this is enabled by the power of Amida's vow, but we need to show up, and we need to show up with our whole heart, mind, whole being, whole person. So anyway, next. Okay, so Tantra involves not just thinking about what will be achieved by spiritual practice, but also a process of acting out. For instance, rather than simply visualizing an image of a Buddha, the practitioner imagines himself or herself as that Buddha. This process of emotional engagement involves the whole person, not just the intellect, encouraging him or her to feel what it would be like to be enlightened. There's another thing I want to kind of say about this is this practice, this tantric practice, this Tibetan or Vajrayana practice of visualizing the Buddha. You start out visualizing the Buddha, and then you kind of you kind of meld with that image, and you become the Buddha. I've kind of thought about this in Jodo Shinshu, that Amida, so instead of it being in Jodo Shinshu, instead of it being the practitioner and visualizing the Buddha, and then kind of becoming the Buddha, kind of bringing that image into themselves and becoming that Buddha in a meditative sense. The Amida Buddha visualizes us, sees us. Amida Buddha sees us and brings his mind to us, and we become, in essence, we are given his mind. We become the Buddha mind, in a sense, in Shinjin. This is in Shinjin. So it's kind of the reverse of this practice, or this practice is the reverse of what Amida does, of the true practice, the original practice of the original Buddha. Actually, original Buddha is that. Original Buddha is the ultimate compassion, the ultimate wisdom of the Buddha mind being given to us. That was the original way. Dharma body as suchness became Dharma body as compassion, because as Amida Buddha eventually, because we needed that. We needed the Dharma. We needed Dharma body as compassion to come as Dharmakara Bodhisattva, to do all his practices and become Amida Buddha, to give us a way to conceive the inconceivable, and be able to engage with that, interact with that, and kind of be able to conceive the inconceivable, as I say. But the original Buddha way always has been giving the Buddha mind to us. So this practice actually is a reverse of the original. This Tibetan Vajrayana practice is the reverse of the original Buddha way, which is personified and manifested perfectly by Amida Buddha, Dharmakara Bodhisattva and Amida Buddha, in his when he became Amida Buddha. But and that's how I see the Jodo, in Jodo Shinshu. It's Amida Buddha doing that practice and becoming, sees us and brings us into him, or gives us his mind. So anyway, next. So, for example, the mudras that are made in tantric worship are the same as those depicted on the images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Each of the mudras expresses a particular quality. An open-handed gesture, palm turned outward, expresses generosity. The fearless mudra, with the right hand raised as though giving a greeting, a blessing, or even a stop sign, is believed to induce a feeling of determination by making these gestures. Is believed to give a feeling of determination. By making these gestures, a Buddhist imitates the image of the Buddha or Bodhisattva, and thereby identifies with what it represents. Chanting, mudras, and other aspects of tantric Buddhism aim to immerse the worshipper in the dramatic expression of what the path toward enlightenment is about, by not just explaining it, but making it feel real. Wow, that's a really good description of how we should kind of immerse in Jodo Shinshu. We are meant to immerse ourselves in the ocean of the Dharma, in the ocean of the vow, we're meant to immerse ourselves in the Jodo Shinshu Buddha's Dharma. I like how this is said. The aim of that practice, but let's just put it in the aim of Jodo Shinshu Buddhist practices, which are Amida's practice that he's given us. The aim of Jodo Shinshu is to immerse the worshiper in a dramatic expression of what the path toward enlightenment is about, and not just explaining it, but making it feel real. we can't experience the ultimate kind of reality of nirvana or Buddha nature. So we can't make it feel real, but we can certainly, in Jodo Shinshu, certainly immerse ourselves in the Dharma, immerse ourselves in our Dharma activities, as I was saying, with our whole heart, mind, and being, enabled through the power of Mita always. But anyway, I just like the way that is said there at the end of that paragraph. Okay, personalized rituals. Tantric rituals are performed under the instruction of a teacher, a lama, who selects those that are likely to be of particular value to each other. In other words, practitioners are given an individualized set of images to visualize, a particular set of images to visualize, mantras to chant, and mudras to perform, depending on their personal inclinations and what they hope to achieve. Yeah, this is important. This is something I picked up on here where it says, I like what it says about the rituals. Tantric rituals are performed under the instruction of a teacher, a lama, or a lama, who selects those that are likely to be of particular value to each other. It's interesting, the particular practice or or Buddha or mantra or mudra or and the practitioner are saying a particular are of particular use, particular value to each individual. Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. Okay, but I did. That is kind of, in a sense, how the engaging nature of Buddhism. But anyway, I did read that wrong, so never mind. Tantric rituals are performed under the instruction of a teacher or lama who selects those that are likely to be of particular value to each individual. Yeah, I'm sorry, I completely read that wrong. I'm getting a bit carried away here, I guess. In other words, practitioners are given an individualized set of images to visualize, mantras to chant, and mudras to perform, depending on their personal inclinations and what they hope to achieve. And that's very important, depending on their their personal inclinations or what they hope to achieve. So it's very important. When I'm talking to people, if they ask me about Buddhism, or I'm talking to people about Buddhism, and they're asking about it, I don't just launch right into talking about Jodo Shinshu Buddhism and Amida Buddha, and etc. I kind of am careful because our teachings do, the teachings of, in the writings of Shinran Shonin, he does say we should be careful when talking about the Dharma with others and sharing it with others. And I'm careful because everyone has their own particular inclinations and own particular causes and conditions, karmic causes and conditions of their lives and their past existences. And so when I just say, if you're going to look into Buddhism, yes, I'm a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist. This is where the Buddhist path led me, and this is where, this is my home. This is my spiritual home. This is my school of Buddhism, and I think it is the full, true, ultimate expression of Buddhist teachings. But so I'm, frank about that. But I don't go into it. I just say, look, you should look into Buddhism for yourself, because in my mind I'm thinking according to their own causes, their own particular causes, karmic causes and conditions. So I just point them toward the three, the the 3 or 4 seals of Buddhism, because that's or also called the 3 or 4 marks of existence. And I point them toward that and just say that's universal. Those teachings are universal to all forms of Buddhism. So start there, and then go from there and see where that, your research online or at the library or buying books leads you, because that's the most important. And if eventually it does lead you on the path toward Jodo Shinshu, then that is good. That's good. But I don't heavy-handedly try to sort of proselytize, or I'm just very, very careful about it because of, like this says, according to their personal inclinations. Not that I know, not that I can see like a Buddhist teacher in this context can see, and perceive and kind of understand on a very deep level the students, the kind of inner workings and their particular inclinations and things, and have a relationship with them and everything, so they can make that determination. I don't presume to be able to do that with anybody I talk to Buddhism about, but I'm always very acutely, profoundly aware they have their own karmic causes and conditions, and it's kind of compassionate to not be heavy-handed about trying to push them toward Jodo Shinshu, or because just acknowledging their own karmic causes and conditions, and just if they've been asking me about Buddhism, that's the direction I point them in. And Amida, it's up to Amida. The whole thing's up to Amida anyway. So if they're going to come to Jodo Shinshu, it's going to be because of Amida's light and the natural working of Amida's Mao, not me. So anyway, that made me think of all that. And you've heard me say that probably if you've listened to other videos of mine. You've heard me talk about that in just the various videos. But anyway, although there are, and that's actually Buddhism in general is very non-proselytizing. There is one form of Buddhism that's based on the Lotus Sutra, that is kind of, and their main teacher was kind of very preached to the whole world, and this is the true Buddhism, and so on and so forth. My way of kind of reconciling that is that teacher and that school of Buddhism he founded was a kind of, for some reason, for some people's, it was a skill and means, in keeping with times and with beings of that place, and that being set in motion in the world, I'm sure it has the same purpose. That type of Buddhism, there's some kind of skill and means used by the Bodhisattvas and Buddhas, of that type of Buddhism as well. So I don't, take any, say that that's wrong or something. But by and large, every other form of Buddhism is very non-proselytizing, and I wouldn't even call that one form I'm referring to, that one form of Lotus Sutra Buddhism, proselytizing. I would just say it's very strong, and it's very, very singular, and it's very definite and very direct. And that is how that teacher, the founder of that school of Buddhism, approached Buddhism and taught it as the ultimate form of Buddhism. So whether that's even can be characterized as proselytizing, I wouldn't even want to do that. I don't even want to criticize it in that way even, actually. But that being said, all other forms of Buddhism, pretty much every other school of Buddhism is not like that, is not sort of heavy-handed, trying to, it takes a gentle way, it's a gentle approach, it's a hearts and minds, as we say here in the UK, it's hearts and minds, you know, and literally it's heart minds, hearts minds, but rather than kind of this is the truth. It doesn't. It's a gentle kind of holistic person approach rather than an inclusive, embracing approach rather than this is the path, you know. But again, I don't criticize that particular school of Buddhism that does do that. I think there's a skill and means there of the Buddhas involved with that. So, but most Buddhist schools of Buddhism aren't that way. So, okay, or almost all other schools of Buddhism are not that way. So, all right. So let's go to the next section. Although there are tantric aspects to publicly accessible forms of Tibetan worship, many tantric rituals are designed to be performed in private, and in their details are generally kept secret. But whether performed in public or private, the feature common to all but whether performed in private or public, the feature common to all is that beliefs and values are acted out using esoteric texts and actions. And that's in Vajrayana. That's in Vajrayana Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Shingon Buddhism. That is that last part about, you know, carried out, acted out using esoteric texts and actions. But anyway. So there's nothing esoteric in really in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. Not that I'm criticizing that at all. I'm just saying there isn't. That's just absent. That at least on the kind of human, everyday, bamboo, ordinary being level of Jodo Shinshu, there isn't. It's just it isn't. It's not part of our esotericism. Is not a part of the Jodo Shinshu Buddhist tradition. So, okay. The next big section is Discover Your Buddha Nature. So this is Zen insights that go beyond words. I love Zen, and that's why. I love Zen. They have such great expression of that going beyond words. That was one of the first schools of Buddhism that I explored, and I used to love reading Zen Buddhist texts. Just the way it actually does. When you just read them, it does sort of alter your mind, if only temporarily. It definitely has an impact and changes your kind of flow of your mind stream. I'll just say that. Anyway. Oops. Sorry about that. Oh dear. Sorry about that, folks. Yes, very unscripted. Teleprompter free here at the Shakugankai channel. Sorry about that. Happy New Year. Woohoo. Okay, so yeah, there you go. Satori shock. There you go. It was well timed. I planned it all along. I planned that all along to give you a Zen shock, a Zen lightning Zen. Satori. Okay, all kidding aside, let's go to the Zen section here. Zen and its Chinese equivalent, Chan, simply mean meditation. As a tradition of Buddhist practice, it is generally regarded as having been founded by an Indian monk, Bodhidharma, who brought it to China in 520 CE, and is credited with the definition of Zen as, quote, direct transmission of awakened consciousness outside tradition and outside scriptures. This definition highlights the key features of Zen. It seeks to allow enlightenment to happen naturally as a result of a clearing of the mind, and does so without the need for rational argument, texts, or rituals. In other words, it creates the conditions in which a person's mental clutter, which detracts from clarity of the mind, can be replaced with direct insight. So I just want to say something about the way this one thing, the quote of Bodhidharma, where it says, a direct transmission of awakened consciousness outside tradition and outside scriptures. In a way, that is what Amida is doing with us. He's giving us his mind. He's transmitting his mind, his merit, his virtue, his teaching, his practice, his realization to us in kind of this manner, a direct transmission of awakened consciousness outside tradition, outside scriptures. So it's, although we do use sutras, we do use the 3 Pure Land Sutras and the writings of our Dharma masters and Honen Shonin, Shenron Shonin, and Renyo Shonin, as well as other Hangwanji teachers and Manchus and so forth down through the centuries as part of our deep listening. But in a sense, that the way that's said is a direct, not that Amida in this lifetime, in this form, Shinjin is different. Shinjin is not when Shinjin arises in someone, and Shinjin settles, and they have that one thought moment of faith mind, sincere mind, of entrusting consciousness. That's different than enlightenment. Although Shinjin and is Amida's mind, is suchness, is enlightenment, is the Buddha mind itself, we don't experience that until we go to until we're born in Pure Land. It's with us in Shinjin, but it's not fully realized until we're born in the Pure Land, in a sense, at the end of this provisional existence, once having Shinjin settling, and you're at the stage of non-retrogression, as I mentioned in previous videos in the series. But in a sense, like I said, I just thought of, that's Amida. Amida is giving a direct transmission of awakened consciousness outside tradition, outside scriptures, to us, directly to us. Though he gives us the form, he enables us to listen to the Dharma in the form of scripture, in the form of sutras, in the form of Dharma masters' writings, etc., to as part of his practice. But anyway, yeah, so that's enough on that, I think. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. So okay, this next bit. This definition highlights the key features of Zen. It seeks to allow enlightenment to happen naturally as a result of a clearing of the mind, and does so without the need for rational argument, texts, or rituals. In other words, it creates the conditions in which a person's mental clutter, which detracts from the clarity of the mind, can be replaced by direct insight. So in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, we talk about, Amida's primal vow, the 18th vow of Dharmakara Bodhisattva, that was fulfilled. He fulfilled all his vows, 48 vows, to become Amida Buddha. Then there's a natural working of that vow. It's actually the 17th and 18th vow, but anyway, that vow, the primal vow, that there's a we talk about there's a or in the teachings, the Dharma masters talk about a natural working of Amida's vow, or Jinin, that happens naturally and naturally transforms us in this life here and now. We're not Buddhas yet. We're not even close to that yet. And we're not in Pure Land yet. So I'm not talking about anything like that, but we are saved in the present. We are, that natural working is happening here and now. So anyway, it's just the way that is said to, it seeks to allow enlightenment to happen naturally. So, and by the working of Amida's vow, we become enlightened first through Shinjin, come to a state of we don't become enlightened by Shinjin. Sorry, it's kind of a process. Shinjin arises, settles in us. We're in the state of non-retrogression, all enabled by Amida's power and the power of Amida's vow and the working of that vow. And then at the end of life, we die, we're born in Pure Land. We naturally, though, become by Amida's power. It's not anything that we've done that we become a Buddha. It's naturally by Amida's power we become a Buddha. So anyway, I just like to see these kind of congruities in between the different schools. And that's why I want to do this reading for Mahayana New Year, because it's really a celebration of all the schools of Buddhism, of Mahayana Buddhism, and all Buddhism, really. I'm just celebrating it in Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. For me, it's a celebration of them all. And that's why I liked kind of pointing out the congruities in it, the affinities between Jodo Shinshu Buddhism and other schools of Buddhism there. And we often, when you've explored other schools of Buddhism before, you get to Jodo Shinshu and you think back, or you're looking at them now, and just through the lens, the Dharma lens of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, you begin to see that teaching, the original Buddhist teaching, realized in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism in other schools of Buddhism very strongly. So it's kind of cool. But anyway. So Zen claims to continue a tradition that goes back to the earliest days of Buddhist teachings. There is a story that one day, surrounded by his disciples, the Buddha simply held up a flower, turning it in his hand without speaking. One of the disciples, Kasyapa, smiled. He had seen the point. It's a bit more than that, actually, but anyway. That wordless insight, it is claimed, was passed down from teacher to disciple for 28 generations to Bodhidharma, who took it to China, from where it spread to Japan. So rather than being a product of the development of two main Buddhist branches, Theravada and Mahayana, Zen sees itself as having developed independently via a separate line of transmission. Buddha mind is the next section. So here we go, Buddha mind. I've been talking a lot about Buddha mind, haven't I? And throughout this whole series, and all the time, every video that I make, either singularly or with Kyokan or with my Dharma brothers in Shaku Brothers. But anyway, Buddha mind. Central to Buddhism is the idea that existential unhappiness is caused by the illusion that each person has a fixed ego, which is separate from the rest of the world, yet which clings to it, trying to hold on to what changes. Zen sees this as the small superficial mind, one that people acquire at birth, then develop, influenced by those around them. There's a big section in the larger Pure Land Sutra, one of our main sutras of our school, one of the three main sutras of our school of Buddhism, that talks about this, that talks about the development of that ego mind that we acquire, that people acquire at birth, then develop you're wrong, as you're kind of wrong, in your life, as you according to your causes and conditions, and also you get taught that the wrong things through family and society and so forth. It goes into great detail about how that happens and then the consequences of it, like very thoroughly. The largest sutra, the largest Pure Land Sutra, is very, very, very thorough and comprehensive. It's truly amazing, but it pretty much has the entire Dharma in it. It contains the entire Dharma. So, yeah. But so do other sutras. But this one, but the way that it's done in the Pure Land, the larger Pure Land Sutra is pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing. So anyway, right. So yeah, Zen sees this as the small, superficial mind, one that people acquire at birth, then develop, influenced by those around them. However, it holds that people also have a Buddha mind, freed from egocentric conceptual thinking. This is innate, but hidden by the clutter of the small mind. People gain nothing. I think that talking about the small mind and the kind of the other second mind is kind of a skill and means kind of way to express it for people to understand it. But people gain nothing by discovering their Buddha mind. People gain nothing by discovering their Buddha mind. They simply recognize what they have had all along. Well, I'd say they gain a lot by realizing their Buddha mind. I'd say they gain a lot, just not in the conventional sense of gaining stuff or gaining a lot. Yeah, that's a pretty massive thing to realize your Buddha nature. But I think the point they're trying to make is people gain nothing by discovering their Buddha mind. They simply recognize what they have had all along. So that's Buddha nature. That's what I've been talking about through this whole series as well. Zen teacher Dogen said that the true self is not the superficial ego that each person has now, but the original face he had. Zen teacher Dogen said that the true self is not the superficial ego that each person has now, but the original face he or she had before they were born and molded by experience, or multiply reborn. It is only when people develop their own faces that they see themselves as separate entities and become egocentric. Dogen is therefore suggesting that people should strive to recognize who they were before they were conditioned by life and experience. Okay, next section is Zen in Japan. Here we go. Yes, good old Japanese Zen. Zen in Japan. There are two main forms of Zen. There are two main forms of Zen, Rinzai and Soto. Rinzai Zen was established in Japan in the 12th century by Aisai and reformed in the 18th century by Hakuin. This school introduced the Zen view that the world is an illusion and that reality is, in fact, indivisible unity. This school introduced the Zen view that the world is an illusion and that reality is in fact a simple, indivisible unity. I'm not sure that's the only school that introduced that or that originated that. Maybe expressed in the particularly awesome way that Zen does so. But anyway. Zen has no scriptures or formal teachings. It is an oral teaching, a tradition of meditation passed from teacher to pupil. Hence the importance of practicing only under the guidance of an experienced teacher. something I said earlier. If you're going to do certain types of Buddhist practices, you really should have a teacher guiding you to do so. A key feature of Rinzai Zen, introduced by Hakuin, is the use of koans. Oh, I love koans. I love koans. And there's a lot of times there are a lot of kind of koan-like teachings in Jodo Shinshu, or you come to kind of koan-like conclusions or thoughts in the Dharma stream, as it were, in Jodo Shinshu for sure. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. A key feature in Zazen, introduced by Hokuin, is the use of koans, unanswerable questions that shatter conventional thinking. Probably the best known koan is Hokuin's "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" Those who think they know the answer to a koan should think again and let go of all preconceived notions. Rationally examining a koan or a Zen dialogue or mondo is unlikely to yield great insight, since it is too easy to view it only within the parameters of personal discursive thought. A Zen teacher will try to guard against that happening. Yes, by various means. Indeed. As a result of Zen practice, a person may suddenly experience satori, that's what I was joking about earlier, insight or enlightenment. This is not a one-time or permanent state of enlightenment, but a momentary experience that may be repeated many times. It is said to happen almost as if by accident. Boom. It cannot be forced, because wanting to achieve satori is a form of grasping. Zen does not seek to define reality or the nature of satori. So there's a little bit of congruity there with aspects of Jodo Shinshu teaching in the natural working of the vow, and it happening as if by accident, or if by just the natural flow of Amida's vow, the natural flow of Amida's power, the natural flow of Amida's mind. And it's not, we don't experience any kind of satori in, some kind of mini enlightenment or anything like that in Jodo Shinshu, but we do have, because if you're engaged, if you're immersed in the Dharma and you're engaging with the Dharma in the way you're meant to in Jodo Shinshu, you do have a lot of what we call aha moments, where you just, boom, just the teaching kind of just opens your mind, and and you just kind of see the truth in a flash about the Jodo Shinshu Dharma teaching, but and the working of Amida, etc. But there's no satori. We don't have anything, like that in Jodo Shinshu. And Shinjin is not satori at all. Shinjin is something that is, in the process of jinin, arises and settles within someone's life, provisional existence, and once that happens, that's permanent. Once that happens, non-retrogression, your only destination then is Pure Land and Buddhahood after that. So it's permanent, not like satori, not satori that says is a kind of temporary thing that can happen many, many times over. But anyway. So, and I'm not even saying that there's I was just making an analogy there, really, with the aha moments of engaging with the Jodo Shinshu Buddhist Dharma, so teaching in the way you're meant to in Jodo Shinshu. So, okay, Soto Zen was developed in Japan in the 13th century by the teacher Dogen. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm in the right place. Okay, Soto Zen was developed in Japan in the 13th century by the teacher Dogen, who had traveled in China and there encountered a meditation tradition called Songtung. again, my pronunciation is terrible. So both Chinese and Japanese and Sanskrit and Pali and whatever else. Okay, so just apologies for my previous pronunciations and any going forward. His form of meditation is very different from the Rinzai form. Instead of trying to trigger sudden insight, Soto Zen. Oh yeah, and we're not trying to trigger anything in Jodo Shinshu. It's all Amida Buddha who is doing the work, is bringing about um, our transformation and Shinjin. So. His form of meditation is very different from the Rinzai form. Instead of trying to trigger sudden insight, Soto Zen is based on sitting meditation, Zazen. And that's what most people know about. This is the form that most people kind of, when they think of Zen, they think of this often. Soto Zen is based on sitting meditation, Zazen, and a more gradual process of enlightenment. Soto considered that religious traditions and rituals could be dispensed with. Enlightenment could be achieved simply through the practice of Zazen. This involves periods of sitting in an upright, cross-legged position, facing a blank wall, interspersed with reflective walking, known as kinhin. In meditation, the mind is cleared of its flow of ideas so that the process of sitting is exactly what enlightenment is about. A person does not sit in order to become enlightened. In the act of sitting, that person is already enlightened. Stilling the mind and clearing away the illusion of a separate self is enlightenment. There's something in here that had another, kind of congruity with Jodo Shinshu, where it says, in meditation the mind is cleared. So yeah, in meditation the mind is cleared of its flow of ideas, so that the process of sitting is exactly what enlightenment is about. In Jodo Shinshu, Renyo Shonin talked about that the what he called the channels of faith needing the channels of faith needing to be cleared. That was an exact quote. That's the teaching, is that the channels of faith, or the channels of entrusting, or the channels of I don't know what the Japanese word he used when he said the channels of faith, but there's that teaching, the channels of faith must be cleared, and they must be cleared by Amida. Amida is the one that does the clearing, and what the Amida is clearing us of in his natural working of his vow and his power and his light of wisdom and light and compassion, is he's clearing us of our calculations, our doubts, our questions that are a block to us. They're not a block to Amida's power. Nothing stops Amida's light. Nothing stops Amida's power. But they're a block within us. They're a block to us which is, and that block is our calculative thinking, our hakurai, and Amida clears that from us through the process of Jin and the natural working of the Bao, to bring us to settled Shinjin, and then that's clear. All our doubts are cleared. The channels of faith are cleared at that point. So that's another little kind of, I guess, congruity here, or infinity, or some analogy I could make from that to Jodo Shinshu teaching. So okay, and then beyond words is the next section. In Zen meditation, something is seen but cannot be described. Careful attention to a piece of calligraphy or careful attention to a piece of calligraphy or raking sand is in a garden, both of which are features of Zen practice, can help free the mind from the constant process of thinking, allowing a person to act in greater harmony with nature. I love those. I love seeing those practices. I love that this aspect of Zen. I really, really do. Um, that is why Zen finds expression in many artistic forms, from flower arranging to computer design. Zen is about create. That's what I like too about Zen is it's like I talk about that this the Dharma is everywhere in daily life in Jodo Shinshu Buddha. It's you're always deeply listening in a sense in your whole day. You can't, you're bamboo, so we're spiritual idiots, so we can't concentrate on all the time. But once you're in that flow of immersing yourself in the Dharma and engaging with the Dharma and the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha in the way you're supposed to do that in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, it is in the just flow of your day. It's in your daily life. You're hearing a conversation, or you see something happen, or you hear a song, or you experience something. You see the Dharma there. You can't help it, and that's all again enabled by because Amida is illumining our mind to see it. And Amida is enabling us to see that. So anyway, another kind of congruity there. So Zen is about creating situations that bring insight without trying to explain or express it rationally. To try to describe the goal of Zen is to have failed to understand it. Zen aims to set the mind free from content. It is not part of that. It is not part of that content. So here's another thing. So we have a thing we use I think it's a Zen expression that says empty your cup. There's that story of the tea master, the teacher that, not the tea master, but the teacher. And, a student comes to him and says, I want to learn the Dharma. I want to, and the teacher kind of starts, he says, oh, come here, we'll have some tea. And does the tea and then, starts to pour the tea in the cup of the student. And he keeps pouring and pouring and pouring until it's overflowing. And this, the student's like kind of shocked. What are you, teacher, what are you doing? Sensei, what's going on here? And the teacher says, your mind, because the student came saying with all these ideas, and so he said, I want to learn the Dharma, I want to become enlightened, I want to learn the Dharma, and he starts talking about all his own ideas and things, and all his thoughts on the matter, and all his things, and all this and that, and the other, about Buddhism this, and practices this, and, and this school that, but this sutra this, and, all this kind of stuff. But then there's this stuff in my life, and I just and the teacher just keeps pouring and pouring, and Deuce's shocked, and he says, what are you doing? He says, well, you came to me to learn the Dharma, but I can't give you anything because your cup is already full, and it's just, it won't fit, there's no room for the Dharma, there's no room for the teaching. So and that's very much the case in Jodo Shinshu. We use that phrase, empty your cup. Lay as best you can, lay aside your own ideas, your own thoughts about the teaching, about Buddhism, about this, about that. Lay those aside and let the Dharma of Amida Buddha fill your mind, immerse your mind in the Jodo Shinshu, Buddhist teaching, in the Dharma of Amida Buddha. In the flow of his teaching, flow of his mind, kind of thing, but the flow of his teaching, I should say. Yeah. So, anyway. Right, there we go. So, Zen is not studied, it is practiced, and if Satori or enlightenment is finally achieved, nothing new is known. All that is known is that it is not necessary to know anything. Deliberately full of paradoxes, Zen aims to gradually break down the normal processes of logical thought. There is a lot of stuff in this is another congruity or something that's analogous in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, where you'll be reading the teachings of the Dharma masters, and something will really, I call them these Shinran flips, but there's also things that seem very paradoxical when you come on it, but you can kind of see the truth of it. It's it's paradoxical, but you can see the truth because, of course, obviously, Amida Buddha's light is enabling us to see the truth. But you'll come across this when you really get into and engage with the Jodo Shinshu Buddha Dharma, as I say, in the way you're meant to be doing by the instruction of our Dharma masters. So, all right, okay, so. Zen aims to gradually break down the normal process of logical thought. Attempting to explain something is to grasp at it, and that grasping is what the Buddha described as the cause of suffering. It is a world where people seek to gain things, to claim knowledge and insight like personal possessions. Zen is the ultimate frustration. Collecting. There's another affinity. In Jodo Shinshu, for me, Shinjin has been the ultimate frustration. I've hit the wall many times, and that's something you kind of have to be engaged with the Jodo Shinshu Buddha Dharma to understand. And if you already are and you've experienced that, you will know exactly what I'm saying without me explaining it. So, in a kind of Zen way. Anyway, I like that. Where is it? Zen is the ultimate frustration. I'm going to say that. Shinjin is the ultimate frustration. When it hasn't settled yet. It can be, not for everyone, but for me it has been. Anyway, as you've seen if you've been watching my videos, or have known me for all these like 18 years that I've been in Jodo Shinshu, in and out of Jodo Shinshu, but more steadily in it the past several years. Anyway, collecting beautiful Zen artifacts could result in understanding what lies behind their production. Zen, that kind of refers to what Yujiro Seki did in his documentary, and his documentary is very Zen. I have to say, it's a very Zen kind of, because he doesn't. There's no narrative to it. There's no agenda in it. So you just experience the art, this art of making Buddhas, of carving Buddhas. You really just experience it in his documentary, Carving the Divine. That's the name of the documentary. It's really good, and that's collecting beautiful Zen artifacts collecting beautiful Zen artifacts could never result in understanding what lies behind their production. Zen is letting go, but there's I think in learning about arts like that and seeing them and seeing their production, there's something you gain from that is beyond words. I've talked with Yujiro in my interview with him about this, that there's something beyond words in Buddha statues and Buddha's carved statues and whatever forms of Buddhist art and statues and whatnot. There's something unspoken that you engage with Buddhist art. Something very powerful, something beyond words. Something taught beyond words, something that reaches you and you encounter beyond words through this art. It's not just statues, this whole thing, like people will characterize, they were, I won't get into all that, but there's something very powerful about that engagement with Buddhist art. So anyway, that's beyond words that this made me think of. Anyway, Zen is letting go. So Zen, I'll just say that one more time. So Zen, collecting beautiful Zen artifacts could never result in understanding what lies behind their production. Zen is letting go. In some ways, Zen returns to the earliest phase of Buddhism, before the Buddha and Bodhisattva images, devotional practices, and revered scriptures. Enlightenment is open to all. Indeed, everyone is already enlightened, if only they could recognize it. Boom! Very well put. It is only they, if enlightenment is open to all, indeed, everyone is already enlightened, if only they could recognize it. Zen dispenses with almost everything related to religion and presents itself as a path of insight and understanding that is without religious trappings. That is what is so great about Zen Buddhism. It is also deliberately anarchic. Its stories provocative and its teachers notoriously challenging. Yes, indeed. They are. They're great. I love Zen. I love Zen. Asked to summarize Buddhism, Bodhidharma is believed to have replied, vast emptiness, nothing holy. So awesome, man. Boom. That's a mic drop. Vast emptiness. That's a hasu drop, as I say. That's a hasu drop, if I ever heard one. Vast emptiness, nothing holy. Boom. Not what was expected, but to the point. And that is the end. That's a perfect conclusion and ending to this reading and to this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed this celebration on Mahayana New Year's of all forms of Buddhism. And join me for my Dharma reflections and Dharma activity on, Mahayana New Year's Eve and Mahayana New Year's. I hope you've, in your own way, celebrated it, or at least engaged with the Dharma today, even if you didn't even know anything about Mahayana New Year or hadn't even heard of it. But this is also kind of part of my ongoing kind of returning to Buddhist basics in my Jodo Shinshu journey. I've had to do this a number of times. When I've got to that point of hitting the wall, I've had to go back and just, okay, what is the teaching say? What are the teachings? Get back to Buddhist basics and have that review. And so this was kind of that for me, part of that kind of process for me. So again, thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Yeah, Namo Amida Butsu. I'll just say some Nambutsu to end the series, as it were. So, join me in Gasho if you're watching this. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namida Butsu, Namida Butsu, Namida Butsu, Namida Butsu, Namida Butsu. All right. Thank you. Until next time.